What we found that about 3/4 of these, again, whatever you want to call them, Allison, taxes, fines, penalties, about 3/4 of those costs will fall on the backs of families that make less than $120,000 a year. So it's a big punch in the stomach to middle class families.
Right, and that has a lot of governors saying to themselves, "What do we really want to do this?" Also, part of making ends meet and giving everyone 100% medical care is having the states expand Medicaid to include more people. So for the first few years, the federal government is going to be handing the states some money and saying, pay out all these people. And then that money's going to go away. And that has not eluded Governor Rick Scott. It has not eluded Governor Scott Walker or Governor Bobby Jindal, who all have said, we're going to listen to the court. We are not going to
went to the Supreme Court and said, this is constitutional under the taxing authority of Congress.
That's right.
So that's not how this was sold to the American. Well, this is not how it was sold to the American people.
No, it's a penalty. It's a penalty that comes under the tax code for the 1% perhaps of the population who may decide that they're going to be free riders. But most people are not affected by it.
It is a new tax on the American people.
No. It's not a tax on the American people. It's a penalty for free riders.
Oh, she almost said tax, right? Did you hear that? Well, right. Republicans are vowing to repeal the health care law. Here's House Speaker John Boehner.
I was. The idea that the federal government can mandate that the American people purchase a product is shocking to me. But they made their decision. I respect their ability to make that decision. But all it really does is strengthen my resolve and resolve of Republicans here in Washington to repeal this awful law, which is increasing the cost of health insurance for the American people and making it harder for small businesses to hire new workers.
I don't think the American people think something that affects 1 to 2% of the population, that's not what they consider a tax.
But Congressman, the Supreme Court did in fact call it unconstitutional, the Affordable Care Law, if it were considered under the Commerce Clause. So they said if you move it out of the Commerce Clause and call it a tax, it's constitutional. So how in the world can you not call it a tax? It sounds like a tax, quacks like a tax. It's a tax.
Well, if you don't pay your taxes or you underpay your taxes, you're hit with a penalty. That penalty is not a tax; it's a penalty, but that's justified under the taxing authority as well. I mean, the semantics are kind of irrelevant.
Right. Well, it would have never passed.
That's literally what Justice Roberts did. He didn't call it a tax.
Let's be honest, Congressman, though. This would have never passed if members of Congress would have called it a tax back in 2010. But here's my question for you. Of course, you remember the fury of the American people who went to all those town hall meetings back when health care was originally being debated. And that was before the midterm elections. Is this a great thing now for Democrats moving into the presidential election? Do you suppose we're going to have a bunch of town hall meetings again to explain whether or not it's a tax?
Aside from the mandate, the penalty or tax, whatever you want to call it, aside from that, in the law, there's some $675 billion of new taxes. Taxes. There's no question about what they're called. Those are taxes. You would admit those are new taxes, though.
They're increased taxes, yes.
Okay. Constitutional. They said it didn't matter what Congress called it. It is a penalty for the 1%.
No, wait a minute, sir.
It is a penalty for the 1% who choose not to buy insurance.
Mr. Liu, they call it a tax.
No, actually, technically what they said is the Congress has many powers. There's a Commerce Clause, there's taxing powers, and it was constitutional. That's what they said. They said it doesn't matter what you call it.
I can't let you go there. It specifically said that it is not constitutional under the Commerce Clause. They said it is constitutional under the tax. And as to the question about raising taxes for the middle class, if I may, sir, let's just look at the record. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates that in 2016, 4 million Americans will pay the mandate penalty or tax. 75% of those people will make less than $120,000 a year. And the CBO says between 2012 and 2021, those folks will pay $27 billion in additional taxes.
I think if you